Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name's Molly, I'm the maker behind Lefty Knits. This is Lola, she's my cat. And today, I'm going to be talking to you about yarns that I want to get out of my stash in 2023. 2023 is going to be a big year for me. I'll be finishing graduate school. I'll likely be moving either just out of my apartment into a different one or out of the state of California entirely. It's all up in the air depending on how my job search goes. I just think that as a result of that, I'm looking to get rid of a lot of yarn that's been languishing in my stash for a while, either through using it or through just destashing it and giving it to somebody who will use it instead. Now, that could take many forms. I might be selling some of my yarn. I might be giving some of it away. I'm pretty active in a local buy nothing group in my area. I have given some yarn away on there before. I've sold some yarn on like Facebook destash groups. So I have some idea of how I might get rid of these things that I'm probably not going to use. And I'll talk about that a little bit more as I get to those items. So I have like 5-ish things, but before we talk about that, I'll just go ahead and show off. Oh, you done? Now that Lola's off my lap and settling in over there, it's a little bit easier for me to talk about what I'm wearing today. So this is the Untangled Crop by Olga Putano Designs. I was originally selected to be a test knitter for this, and I had a shorter timeline. Than the test was like the full time of the test, because I was going to go to the East Coast for a trip. My boyfriend and I had back-to-back Saturday, Sunday weddings, and I didn't want to bring along like a 4 or 5 color work project with me. So I was chugging along, making this top, and I got to the end of the body. I cast off the body, and I realized that while I cast on the right number of stitches and increased to the right number of stitches for my size, I made the 42-inch bust size, which is like 5 or 6 inches of positive ease on me. I cast on the right number of stitches, I increased to the right number of stitches for my size, but I had only held off for the arms the number of stitches for the size below mine. So the body was like a pretty tenty, and the sleeves were really tight. So I emailed Olga and like explained what happened, and she was very understanding. I had these yarns all in my stash. I'll talk about those in a moment. So I knew I wanted to finish it, but I knew that I just like couldn't finish it before I left. So I left it at home, came back, frogged it up to the arm split, did the arm split the right way this time, and then knit the rest. Now, I did make one modification in my second go round, which was to, holding the shirt up, hopefully you can see, which was to add a 5th color. That's how many, there's 4 colors, right? Yeah. So this gray color was, the lighter gray was not called for by the original pattern. This part would have been white, or like the natural bare color up here, but I thought that it looked a little bit stark to go from the like charcoal gray to the white, so I changed it because I had it in the stash and had originally planned to use it with the rest of these yarns. I changed it to this lighter gray. There's 2 different kinds of yarns in here. So there's Swish DK from Knit Picks, and that is this color, the natural color, that's the bare Swish DK, and then the pink and the gray, the light gray. I forget what those colors are called, but I will link them below. And then the charcoal gray and the rust color are King Cole Merino Blend DK. It was a great use for yarn that I already had and had already wanted to use for something, so it worked out great in the end. So now that we've talked about what I'm wearing, I think I want to just jump right into the yarns. I'll start out with my first one, which is a bunch of Knit Picks Upcycle Reserve wool. So I have both worsted and bulky versions. This one is the worsted. It's 100% wool. It's 4.5 to 5 stitches per inch. There's 219 yards in this ball, which is 100 grams. And I have almost 5 of them in this color. This color is called Amarillo. Now, I bought a bunch of this, like so much of this. I made a cardigan out of it. I believe I've talked about the cardigan in a previous video. It was the Trago cardigan, and that was made purely out of this color, and I still have basically a sweater quantity left. And I also have less than a ball of 3 other colors. Now, the colors I believe are called Rojo, Azul, and Verde. But out of this yarn, I made my self-drafted bubble pullover. And I still have about a ball of each left, maybe less. But that was a very oversized pullover, so you can tell that I bought like quite a bit of it because I have about 1,200 yards left. Now, this yarn hasn't held up incredibly well in the pullover or in the cardigan I made. Part of it might be that it's a long cardigan, so it's something that I sit on, but I feel like it's getting a little bit felted and definitely pretty pilly. I'll probably make another pullover, and it might be color work because I do have these yarns and I think they look pretty good together. Obviously the yellow would be the main color in this case, and it's not like super yellow. It's more of like it leans a little yellower than like a camel or a beige, but it's closer to that than it is to a yellow. I'm not totally certain what I might make out of this. I think it's possible something like the Zig by Andrea Mowry would make sense. I don't think I want to just do stripes. I'd like a little bit of something more interesting going on. So I'll probably do some sort of like zigzaggy stripe pattern where I am incorporating these colors with this as the main color in some way. So these I do plan to use, and they'll probably be a sweater on top of all the sweaters I talked about in my Make 9. So wish me luck on that one. Now, the next yarn I want to use is also Knit Picks Upcycle Reserve, but this is the 100% wool bulky yarn, and the colors are all the same. So bottom to top, Amarillo, Verde, Rojo, and Azul. And I have 3 balls of the bulky each in Amarillo and Verde, and 2 each of Rojo and Azul. Now, I don't know what to think about these. So these they're listed as a 5. So just a bulky, not a super bulky. There's 54 yards for 100 grams. And I mean, I look at it and it looks close to like, you know, some of the woolies I have, the woolies Thick and Quick. I think it's probably bulkier. And I have looked at patterns on Ravelry that have used this, and a lot of people did say that it seemed more like a super bulky than a bulky. As I've said, I might be moving in the next 6 months to a year. That could involve me moving to a colder climate where bulky sweaters make sense. But I think I kind of messed up here in the amount of yarn I bought. I don't think I bought out the rest of this. I'm not really certain what I was thinking when I decided on the amounts, but I have 3 yellow, 3 green, 2 red, and 2 blue. So like 100-ish yards of each of these. Don't mind the cat fuzz that just flew around. and 150 yards of this. So I think to make like a sweater, I would have to use all of each of these yarns like together in one sweater. And I don't think that's a problem. Like, I don't think mixing the colors is the problem. I think the amount I got is kind of weird because I can't really have like one main color and it's not equal. So I would probably have to work around making like cuffs and such in one of these two colors or something. And I mean, there's just not that much yarn in each of these balls, so I still might be cutting it kind of close. But the bottom line is that I just don't need a super bulky sweater. So these are yarns that I think I'll probably end up destashing. They feel and look really nice. I might make a cowl or two out of one or two of these colors. I recently made the Copper Foxes Super Bulky by Casey Herlihy as a test knit. I'll link the video where I talk about that. And I made it in Woolies Thick and Quick. And I think that these yarns would work pretty well for that cowl as well. They're soft enough that I could wear them at my neck for sure. I'm not super sensitive. So I might try one of these. I also think that the colors would work really well for that cowl because it's like a lace eyelet based cowl, and I think that having a more solid color than the one that I ended up making would be really nice. So I might make one or two of those because I have really enjoyed having bulky cowls. That being said, I have another yarn that I'm almost certain I'd like to use for a Copper Foxes cowl, and that is this Mirasol Weekla yarn. So I have one skein of this, and that is where I really went astray. This is, I believe, discontinued. I've tried to see if I could get any more of it so I could make something else, and I have not come up with any places where I could buy some. I don't think I found many people who had stashed it on Ravelry. So I think I'm a little bit out of luck, and I think that this is about the amount of yarn I'm gonna have. So this is another bulky yarn. It's 50% superfine alpaca, 50% Pima cotton, and there are 109 yards in this 100-gram hank. The colorway I believe is called Garnet. It's colorway number 8. I'll make sure to put the name of it down below. And I think I'm gonna make a cowl out of this. It's really soft and very pretty. It's not a color, it's a little bit brighter than most colors that I tend to go for, but I got it on sale at Lovecrafts a while ago, probably a year or two or more ago. I mean, I just thought it was really pretty. I think there were only a couple colors left, not necessarily colors you would put together to make something color work. And I think it was still kind of expensive. I'm not totally certain what I was thinking when I only bought one skein of it, like what I thought that this would become. But I think that I'll probably make a Copper Foxes cowl out of this, and I will probably have to modify it a little bit because I think that this is more of like a true bulky to potentially closer to worsted weight yarn. I mean, if you compare these two, these are both supposed to be bulky. It's much closer to this, like the worsted version. Still a little thicker, I think. But yeah, so I think that this will probably become a cowl because I'd really like to use this yarn. It's very soft. It feels super nice. I just don't, I mean, I couldn't make like, it's cotton and alpaca. I feel like this would make like a terrible pair of house socks or something. So a cowl kind of seems to be where I would go with this. And I think that it is a really nice color. Maybe not one I gravitate towards a lot. It might not super go with a lot of the clothes I have, but I have a fair number of neutrals. So I think that this will be overall a cowl that I would use. And I think that this definitely, along with the worsted upcycle reserve from Knit Picks, I think this will be something that I'm definitely going to try to use. And because it's only one skein, it would be a one skein project, it should knit up pretty quickly. So the next thing I'd like to probably destash in this case is a bunch of cotton yarn. So I have these two cones. I think that they might both be Premier Home cotton. One of them definitely is. I don't know which one. The other one might be Sugar and Cream cotton, but the labels are long gone. I just know that there's some sort of worsted weight cotton. I also have these two little cakes of Dishy by Knit Picks. These are 100% cotton, and there's 190 yards for 100 grams. And the colors are blush and silver. So once I got back into knitting, I think I really liked the idea of cotton knitting. I have a good amount of cotton for like sweaters and stuff. And I had this idea that maybe I would become the kind of person who knit homewares for myself or knitted as gifts. But the fact of the matter is, these yarns have been sitting in my stash for, I don't know, 2 or 3 years at this point, and I haven't touched them. There were various points at which I thought maybe I would like make a towel or two as a housewarming gift for a friend, but I never got around to it. And I still have these cones, and they're huge. And I just don't really feel like I want to knit with them. I could, I'm certain, make clothes out of them if I really wanted to. You know, they feel plenty soft. There's nothing like wrong with this yarn. I'm sure that if you looked at like Dishy on Ravelry, there are people who've made clothes out of them, and that's totally cool. I just don't really love working with cotton that much. I have other cotton that appeals to me more in my stash as something that I'd like to wear. So I think that these are yarns that I'll be destashing. I may end up giving these away in my local Buy Nothing group. I probably will with the cones at least. These I might try to sell, but I'm not certain if just selling two little 100-gram balls of Dishy makes sense. So I think these are something that I'm just going to be letting go of because I don't really think that I would enjoy working with it that much. I don't think that I would use the finished product that much. I don't think I'm going to knit gifts with them because I haven't done it in years. And I just think that someone else will find use in these, and it's time for me to let them go. The last yarns, excuse any crinkling, I'm sorry about that. Now these are two yarns that I bought with, I think, the intention of maybe designing something. They're Valley Yarns Northfield over here in the colorway Sea Spray, and Sublime Baby Cashmerino Silk DK. I won't subject you to me rooting around in these bags, so I'll cut. Now these are in labeled Ziplocs. I had the intent, and I actually was sticking to it pretty well for a while, of kind of organizing my yarn into bags, which I would reuse and relabel when I got more yarn. Within these bins that I have, I'm looking over there because they're over there. So that's what I did with this. And I would write on it like what the yarn was, the gauge, how many like balls or skeins I had, and the yardage, the total yardage that was left. So in this case, I have 992 yards of the Valley Yarns Northfield, and this is a 70% merino, 20% baby alpaca, 10% silk yarn. There's 50 grams per ball, with 124 yards per ball, and the colorway is 10, which is sea spray. So this yarn and this yarn, so this is the Sublime Baby Cashmere Merino Silk DK. It's 50 grams, 127 yards, and I don't see a colorway name. The shade is 0493. 70% silk, or no, sorry, 75% extra fine merino, 20% silk, 5% cashmere. So I bought these yarns, I think with the intent of perhaps making a pattern out of them, or at least self-drafting a garment that was like a tighter, like an all over negative ease, like tight, with like waisty creases, sort of turtleneck or like mock neck. I think that was my idea. But then I buried them under a bunch of stuff, and I'm not certain if those are the vibes. So I have 992 yards of this, 762 yards of this. I'm not certain that either of those is enough to make like a full-length sweater on me. 762 is definitely not. This one I might be able to get it out of. I have almost 1,000 yards, but I mean, I think I like the idea, the original idea I had of something like cropped and a little bit like tighter to my body, figure hugging, I suppose, with a little bit of a turtleneck, but I'm just not certain how much use I'd get out of that. And if I tried to, as I think my original intention may have been, like create some sort of pattern with those specifications, I think that can be really difficult and not something that I'm necessarily interested in doing or up for right now. You know, everybody has sort of a different bust to waist to hip ratio. I think I was envisioning this cutting off at the waist. But you know, it's hard to kind of write a pattern to suit people's bodies that would work for most people. Obviously, I know that patterns are varied. Not every pattern works for every person. And I just don't think that I'm like up for that sort of challenge of trying to figure out like waist decreases. You know, and like, where do you start them? Different people. Basically, it's a complicated thing that I think I could probably figure out for me, but I'm not certain that it's actually something that I would wear that much. So I might go for simple cropped sweaters with these, probably short sleeve with the blue. Maybe V-neck, something kind of like what I'm wearing now, which is made out of DK yarn. Maybe more of a raglan though. I tend to prefer the fit of raglans, especially since I don't think I would be doing color work. Like, I don't think I want these two colors together, and I would prefer not to buy more yarn. So I'll probably go for more simple sweaters with these. Maybe a shawl or a wrap, since I'm getting into that now. But these I do want to use. You know, the yarn is really nice. I think if in 6 months I haven't like picked a project for them, I might destash them. I think I could probably sell these. You know, this is a decent amount of yardage. It would be worth shipping. It's not a super cheap yarn. I am pretty certain I got them on sale, but I don't know for sure. I think that there's more resale value to this probably than the cotton yarn. I'm just not certain. I'm not ready to give up on it yet. These have been hidden away in a part of my stash that I don't access very often. So I remember that I have them sometimes, but not all the time. There's a little bit out of sight, out of mind. And, you know, I really love this color. I think this sea spray color is really gorgeous. I think this blue is really pretty too. So I'd like to maybe, now that these are on the internet and out from underneath my bed in my my deep hidden stash, I think I might leave them like in one of my bins or in one of my drawers outside. I have stash kind of in a lot of places. I might leave them somewhere where I'm thinking of them. I might look on Ravelry at projects people have made with these yarns, look at sort of DK weight sweaters, tees, etc., and think about what I could do with these, because I'd really like to use them. I think that these are colors that would be pretty versatile in my wardrobe, certainly more versatile than this pink that I'll probably make the cowl out of. So I'm not ready to give up on these, but I think if, you know, we're getting towards the time when Will and I are moving in particular, and I don't have a solid plan for them, I think it'll be time for me to let them go. So those are the yarns that I'm committing to putting out into the world, either in the form of giving them to someone else or using them. I don't know everything yet that I plan on doing with them. Like I said, I think some yarns I might hold on to and think about, renew my, you know, pattern search efforts, thinking about how I might use these things that I have, with a mind that I want to only use what I have. You know, maybe if I have to buy one skein of something else to complete it, that's okay. But by and large, I don't want to be bringing things into my stash. I would love at some point to do a full stash tour with you, but I just don't have a very, I don't want to say I don't have like an aesthetic lifestyle. Of course, I mean, I don't, and that's fine. I don't think that anybody should need to have that, but my stash is pretty like piecemeal throughout our house. It's in bins that are not easy to see. They're kind of up high. I don't have like the ability to kind of show you everything that I have without like dumping it on our living room floor and like ruining my boyfriend's life and mine and our cats. Well, she might like it actually. At some point, maybe when I'm moving, or you know, when I have better storage of my crafts, I'll be able to show you kind of everything that I have. But for now, I just figured I would pull some things that I am considering getting rid of and show you what those are. Now, I want to say, since I didn't say it at the beginning, if you have an enormous stash and you want to keep all of it, that's great, that's cool. If you have no stash and you're like, I never want to have a stash ever, I only want to buy yarn when I'm ready to make a project, that's also great. I think, you know, I'm not the first person to say that stash is very personal, that everybody has to kind of consider what works for them in terms of amount of stash, in terms of, you know, how you store your stash, what yarns you keep, what you're buying. But I really want to be more intentional this year, and for the rest of my life, hopefully, with what yarns I'm bringing in, because I've done a lot of just buying yarns that were on sale, thinking I would come up with something for them later, but having not bought quantities or yarns that will actually serve me very well. You know, like I think this bulky Knit Picks yarn is a perfect example of that. This is great yarn. I have nothing bad to say about the yarn. I think the quantities in which I bought it, the, you know, 2, 2, 3, 3 balls of it, was probably a mistake. I think maybe buying yarn this chunky when, you know, I live in California might not have been the best idea either, because I just don't have the kind of life where I would want like a super stripy, super bulky sweater. And I don't like the colors. I can't make it 1 or 2 colors. It would have to be 4 if I wanted to make a sweater out of it. And I just don't think that that was like smart. You know, as I go into the rest of 2023, I want to just be more mindful about bringing yarn in. I'm hoping that I don't bring any yarn in for a couple months, but if I do, I want to make sure that I'm like thinking of projects, exactly what it would be. And there's times where I don't really do that. You know, like I went to Alabama in my last video. I talked about the there were a couple yarns that I just grabbed, like the alpaca yarn from Shooter, where I was like, oh, I just want all of this yarn and I'll figure out what to do with it later. But you know, 4 balls of like a natural colored yarn are not that hard to figure out what to do with, really, compared to a bunch of different colors of a yarn. You know, I just think I need to think more about, if I don't have a project in mind, how easy it would be to assign something to a project. If you know, don't operate this way, if you're happy buying yarn with no project in mind and you want to keep doing that, like, I'm not, like, no judgment at all, absolutely none. I just don't have a life where that is something that I can fit physically into my space very well. It's better for me to just let go of that idea, start being more mindful, use the things that I have, so that as I'm moving, as I'm sharing my space with another person, with a cat, I have more space for them, more space for my things, more space to be organized. And that's really the main goal of me being more intentional with my yarn purchases this year. That's all I have for you this week. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and consider subscribing. I have been a little bit less regular about my videos recently, but I'm trying to release videos every week or every other week talking about my knitting and what I've been working on. I hope you have a great rest of your day. You are staying warm or staying cool if you're in the Southern Hemisphere, and I will talk to you next time.